Hey, good evening, everyone. Want to update you on the weather tonight. It's 9:30 time for this 48 First Alert Weather Extra. Now, a lot of you concerned overnight tonight for the threat of severe weather, but right now I think most of that is going to stay just west of us, especially if you live in Huntsville. A lot of it's west. However, in the shoals, we could start to see this around 2 o'clock in the morning. We're going to take you through the latest forecast guidance. And we're at the point in the game, so to speak, where the models continue to kind of fluctuate. And we're at the point where we're doing what we call nowcasting, and that's basically looking at the atmosphere right now and analyzing what's happening. So let's get right to the forecast. I'm going to go ahead and talk about this tornado watch that's just out to the west. This is what they call a particularly dangerous situation, a PDS watch. These are rare. And the reason it's called PDS is because it's particularly dangerous because of the setup of the atmosphere. Right now, there's still a lid on this atmosphere. What I mean by that is think of the atmosphere like a tall building or like a skyscraper. And the higher you go up in that building, typically the air gets colder as it rises. But in the situation we have today, the air is warmer above, and it puts this lid on the atmosphere. But if something comes in, like, say, a cold front at 10,000 feet or so, which is possible, or something cools the atmosphere, the lid's removed, and then the atmosphere actually accelerates the upward updrafts in those storms. So that's why it's potentially significant. So we'll watch this as it comes through. But right now, let's talk about what's going on. So these storms so far have weakened just a little bit. They're fighting this cap. And let me take a closer look at the radar here with you as well. And we have some of these that are surviving. But the initial round here, it's running into this warmer air, and that's it's stabilizing it. So it's potentially unstable, we call it. The model guidance coming in tonight, the HRRR, it's usually pretty good at short term. It does have a tendency to blow this up a little bit around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning out in the shoals. So just a closer look here towards the radar in Memphis. This activity has yet to fire up. But the caveat here is, if these storms do start to blow up, they'll blow up rapidly once that cap's gone. That situation happened last May 8th. We had this cap. We thought, this cap's not going to break. We're going to be fine. And then lo and behold, it just blew up and it kept going. We had 20 tornadoes. So just keep that in mind. Tonight, again, have weather radio. That's the best thing to have. I know we've all got our phones, but sometimes they're silent and sometimes you just don't get that warning. This has been a heck of a storm up to the north. They've had 70, 80 mile an hour winds behind this frontal system, blowing dust, fires everywhere there. A lot of grass fires in the state of Oklahoma. And this storm system's lifting off. We're on the southern edge. So what complicates this, and I think the models are a little complicated by it too, is you have two really significant storm systems back to back. This one is actually helping pull that moisture transport off the Gulf to the north. So that's going to help feed, unfortunately, the storm system, the upper level storm that's coming in tomorrow. So they're getting a pretty good round of thunderstorms there from Little Rock north up into Missouri, but those are not the supercells, so there's some good news. But in between that line and what's happening in Memphis, south of Memphis and in Mississippi, we could see potentially those supercells. I've updated this graphic here, and you're going to see why as we go hour by hour through this coming up here in just a little bit. But roughly 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And again, this is going to track from west to east. So 2 a.m. along the state line, 6 a.m. Huntsville metro area. And the potentials there, of course, heavy rain, damaging wind gusts, frequent lightning, large hail, and the possibilities there for tornadoes. I'm going to look over here, see you guys got some questions here. Spend a little bit more time. And I can't answer these specific questions like when's it going to hit here, how bad is it going to be here? And a lot of you look at these still graphics on the internet and you won't see it. These graphics that I post on the internet are like if it says 1 p.m. or 1 a.m., that is one still graphic in time. Keep in mind everything is constantly in motion when you're dealing with weather. So just because it may not show up, say, in Scottsboro at 2 a.m., doesn't mean you're never going to see it. So keep that in mind. And I can't answer those specific questions because we just don't know. We just don't know. It's beyond the science. My allergies are starting to get to me too. Oh, here's a good question. Evan says, will North Alabama go into 5 over 5? And that means high risk. I really think the high risk is going to be expanded north. Based on what I've seen, I think it warrants a high risk. And the other part of that is just because you're not under a high risk does not mean that you don't have that significant weather either. So again, that's a problem, I think, with the whole risk categories themselves. And you get so focused on the bullseye that sometimes these big outbreaks, the most intense activity occurs on the northern edge of the high risk. April 27th, 2011, we were on the northern edge. We were in the high risk, but we were right in the northern edge of the high risk. So just because you're not in the high risk doesn't mean you won't have significant weather. And it only takes one big storm for some of you. It takes to be someone's basically 2011. It's just one storm. And I mentioned earlier today, inventory your stuff, video your stuff in your house. You may not need it tomorrow, but it's always good to have. I had a situation where, our car was stolen, and all the stuff was in it. We were going to a baseball tournament, and we actually ended up going to Atlanta, and our Tahoe, our 2005 Tahoe was stolen. So then I had to go through and figure out exactly what was in there. And you're stressed out enough with the car being stolen, you can't remember everything. So, a month later, I was like, oh, I remember this camera was in there. This was in there. So that's what I mean by categorize your stuff, video your stuff, so you know exactly what you have in case you have an insurance claim. And I hope it didn't, I know it probably brought fear to some people out there. But again, those are just smart things to be doing, because if you have video proof of something, you say, well, this is exactly what I had, especially if it's something that's out of the ordinary, antiques, things like that. Here's our severe threat tonight. This is going to be roughly after midnight, and this includes northern Mississippi now, but it's more towards, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning for northwest Alabama, and including the Huntsville metro area. Now, these storms aren't going to slide southeast. The area slides to the southeast, so I want to make sure you're aware of that. What we're dealing with here in the area in white, that's the area we are most concerned about for tornadoes, long track tornadoes, very heavy rain, significant lightning. That's going to be the other thing that you'll notice with some of these storms. If you get a tornado warning tomorrow afternoon and there's just continuous lightning, that is a real indicator that that storm is something to be reckoned with, because every storm that produces significant tornadoes just has, it's like a strobe light of lightning. There's going to be large hail with it too. Here's the latest storms and fuel. This is the CAPE. This is the instability. Notice the lack of instability. And again, this is plotted in red. So if you step outside now, sure, it's warm, but it's not really all that muggy yet. It doesn't feel like a severe weather night. And that's one of the limiting factors here. So this is 2 o'clock in the morning. Notice the model guidance jumps up to 700. And these are joules per kilogram. It's a science thing. But basically, this is buoyancy. Anything above 1,000 will represent a problem for the potential for severe weather. Notice what the other thing we've got going on, and you're going to see a lot of this, are these, these white lines that turn blue. Those are these helicity tracks, and that indicates the potential for mesocyclones within these heavy areas of rain. But you notice some of that is a little overdone, probably because it's at 300 joules per kilogram. So between Tupelo and Russellville at 3:30 in the morning, it's possible we're going to have these storms, and if they rotate, we're going to get tornado warnings. So that's pretty much a given. Jeff DeNoyers and Eric Burke, they're going to be here overnight. I will be back tomorrow late morning for the secondary round coming in. It's potentially the more volatile round. One thing that we're seeing here a little bit more of in this model guidance doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we'll continue with this. It's got this area of thunderstorms kind of moving through the morning hours, so 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So we'll probably get a tornado watch tonight after midnight, so your weather radio may go off for that. And it's likely going to be along and west of I-65. May actually include the Huntsville metro area, though. Can't say for sure. And it may be just kind of a continuation watch of what we have now. So as we go forward, notice how this kind of extends out. It's kind of odd shape to it here, But we'll have to watch this area definitely through the morning hours. And this is a subtle change here. The models change from time to time. And as we continue on, here's the break. And I do want to talk about this a little bit. You see that orange area in the red? That's that instability. That's building to the north. So there's going to be a window probably around 9 o'clock to maybe even 11 o'clock or noon tomorrow where the sun may come out, where we may be rain free, so you may be able to get out, go out and about. And we're not telling you to lock into your house and don't go anywhere. Just stay weather alert. The one thing that we do have in our favor with these storms coming in is we do have the potential that they're going to be supercells. So we're going to be able to watch supercells develop to our southwest. We're going to be able to put a storm track out for 45 minutes to an hour. We're going to be able to give a really big heads up to these storms, especially the most dangerous ones, because they're not spin-up tornadoes. They're not going to be, oh, all of a sudden we got a tornado. It's going to be, there's a tornado on the ground. It's tracking northeast at 60 miles an hour. It's going to be here in an hour, or it's going to be here in an hour and a half. So the most vulnerable community is going to be mobile homes, and we're really going to try to extend that. And I mean, this window tomorrow morning between 9 and noon, roughly, again, keep weather alert because things can change quickly, and they likely will. But that's your opportunity to go out and say, you know what, I need to find a better place to seek shelter at. And you can go to our website, WAFF.com. We do have information there regarding shelters. The best advice, you guys know your communities better than I do, to the point where they're going to be able to tell you where the storm shelters are. I don't have any idea which storm shelters are pet friendly. So again, my mission here is to send out the warnings, the information as we go through, and we will be following this throughout the day. So there's that break. As we go past, say, noon, notice how everything really changes. The sun may actually come out tomorrow, and it may hit 80 degrees. So that's going to do two things. It's going to increase the chance that we're going to see these supercell storms. It's also increasing the chance that we may see baseball-size hail with some of these storms too. So there's the other big thing there that's going on. So the more energy, the more likely you'll see larger hail. So as we go past 2:30, here's where we start to see all these blue lines coming through. Those are where the computer is basically saying possible tornado tracks. So we pay close attention to those because that tells us the strength of the updraft, and it tells us where the likely spacing is going to be. You can see how this all just becomes really clustered all together as we get past 5:30. So again, it's just going to be a real mess on radar. It's going to be very hectic. We're going to have, if this plays out, I do want to say that, we're going to be in a situation where we're going to be tracking probably 3 or 4 storms capable of producing a tornado at the same time. And then there'll be a main line we'll also be informing you on as well. So stay weather alert as we go through the day. Notice how everything starts to drop off around 8 o'clock along and west of I-65. So that'll be good news there, but it's full on there in the northeast corner of the state. However, the instability doesn't get as high, so hopefully that'll help out. But again, this is model guidance, but it still takes you up to about 940 joules per kilogram there. And here's the best place to seek shelter here. This is going to be that interior hallway or closet, and then you're also looking at staying away. Your garage door, I talked about this pretty much all week long, is probably the most vulnerable thing besides the windows and the glass on your house. So interior bathroom, what we mean by interior, you want to get as many walls between you and the outside as possible. You want to be as low as you possibly can. So say you live in an apartment, you need to be in the lowest level of that apartment complex. Or if there's no option, say your 3rd floor, 2nd floor, you go to the middle of your apartment, that's going to be the safest place for you there. So again, we'll be able to give you extended storm tracks, and the best place is going to be in the basement. But I mentioned this the other day too. Some of you have walkout basements, so that's not as safe as you might think it is. Especially somebody sent me a message today. They were like, I've got a walkout basement and I've got a garage door in there. And I'm like, you're safer on the top floor in the middle of the upstairs. So again, if you have a walkout basement and you have, say, a garage door that goes into that garage door is going to be very vulnerable. Particularly this garage door was on the west side. the west side of the house is probably the brunt of the wind here because everything's coming at you from the southwest. So you're going to want to seek shelter in the northeast corner of your basement if that is an option, because as that tornado approaches, if it's strong enough, if it doesn't take the whole home, it's going to lift the home off its foundation to the northeast, and the back of the home is going to collapse in. So if you've got a lot of brick veneer, that's all brick is it's a veneer, unless it's solid brick, and I doubt most homes here are the brick veneer. So they don't protect you as you think, oh, I got a brick house, it's better than, it's not. So again, it's just for looks in most cases. As we continue on here, again, this is going to be around 4 o'clock. I really don't want to go through this model guidance because I don't trust it because it's changed the most. This has it even much more delayed than what we're dealing with now, and I think it gets confusing when you start to switch up model guidance. So someone's selling tacos and quesadillas. That sounds pretty good right now.
That sounds good.
All right, well, I'm about finished here. Let's see what time we got. 9:47. Got to get ready to do the 10 o'clock news tonight. Again, we'll be fully staffed through the day tomorrow. We'll keep you up to date. I don't see anything rapidly changing in northwest Alabama until we get to the 2 o'clock hour, 2 a.m. And again, Jeff and Eric will be in here covering that. They'll be in here around midnight tonight. So again, you guys be careful, be safe, make smart decisions. If you lose power, don't put that generator in the garage. You may be like, well, I got to put it in the garage because it's going to get wet. When you put that in your home, you put it with no ventilation, it's carbon monoxide, and it's the silent killer. So again, avoid that. There's going to be an adrenaline rush. If you have down trees, you're going to want to get out and cut the trees. I know my dad would have been out there like, oh, I'm going to get this taken care of as soon as possible. Just be careful. I mean, because that's how accidents happen after the storm is you'll be out there with a chainsaw. It's been maybe 2 years since you used a chainsaw. Man, when you get that adrenaline going, you're just cutting, and you're helping your neighbors, you're doing the right thing, but you're overexerting yourself for one, and you know, the chainsaw is a real dangerous tool. You just kind of take advantage of that. So again, just getting up on ladders, putting tarps on homes, just be safe. Power lines may be down, gas lines may get ruptured because as those big trees fall, you got all those utilities and those utility easements, and those are, you're going to get gas leaks, you're going to get always treat every line as if it's still live. So again, those are just other precautions post-storm. Keep in mind you may be seeking shelter multiple times throughout the day tomorrow, so make sure you're comfortable where you're seeking shelter. All right, you guys take care, and thank you for watching.